This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are you doing out there? This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. I am Joe Gaither, your host. You're the viewer watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, and Twitter. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. We appreciate everybody who is subscribed, rated, and reviewed the show, checking us out, and telling your friends about the show. We're going to have a fun week. Well, hopefully we're going to have a fun week. We are officially entered a little bit of the doldrums. Now that A-Day is behind us, college basketball is concluded. Yes, the Diamond Sports are still right in the middle of SEC season, so we'll pay attention to Alabama baseball and softball over the next few weeks as those seasons really get into the business ends. Gymnastics is getting ready for their NCAA, so they're basically at their end. But here we are. The two major sports are done, at least for the time being. What are we, 138 days away from Alabama kicking off against Western Kentucky? We got a lot longer from Alabama getting the new basketball season started. So we're going to have a little bit of fun this week, wrapping up Alabama's spring game, wrapping up Alabama's time really in basketball, looking forward to the transfer portal and seeing how Alabama works through the transfer portal period, who comes back, who stays, and who goes. But today's program is going to be all about A-Day. Did you go to A-Day on Saturday? If you did, you're welcome to jump in and join us in the comments at Joe Gaither6 for whatever social media machines that you like to use. Send me your comment, question, query, and complaint. Let me know what you thought of Alabama's A-Day. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about Alabama's offensive standouts. We're going to talk about the format, new scoring format this year for A-Day. Then we're going to talk about really the transfer portal as it gets opened for college football tomorrow. What we might see, what we might feel for Alabama. We'll talk about the turnout, and then we will wrap it up with what do we think Alabama needs on the offensive side of the football. Tomorrow we'll talk about defense, but today is going to be all about Alabama's offense from A-Day on Saturday. All right, so if you're living under a rock, Alabama's A-Day was on Saturday. And what the team offense, Team White, beat Team Defense, Team Crimson, 34-28. And so let's go over some standouts, some people that we enjoyed watching. Look, if you joined us on, the Friday show, we talked about 5 players that I was looking forward to seeing. James Brockermeyer, Austin Mack, Richard Young were 3 of those 5 players. On the offensive side, we had 2 defensive players, and Keon Keeley and Red Morgan. Red Morgan had himself a pretty good little day, but not really. Austin Mack struggled. James Brockermeyer, you look at the offensive line did pretty well, but it's kind of hard to really judge, especially considering what the rules are, what the defense is being really saddled with rules-wise. You saw Jalen Milroe, his second snap, he takes off and runs, and really the play goes dead because it's spring ball. You can't really tackle and get after the quarterbacks. I know there was some quarterback curries, and I guess there was a couple sacks that were taken down, but really hard to stand out on the defensive side of the ball because of the way the rules are structured. Now, let's talk about standouts. I got 5 standouts, 5 offensive skill players that stood out to me during the performance on Saturday in Bryant-Denny Stadium. You can, of course, let me know who stood out to you, or if you thought any of these guys might become real ball players. Let's just go. We'll list off the names, and then we'll talk about the performances. That'll be a good way to do it. I got Jeremy Bernard, I got Jam Miller, I got Richard Young, Cole Adams, and Ty Simpson as my 5 offensive standouts. And obviously, it's all skill position players. I think Tyler Booker had himself a good little day on the offensive line, and Elijah Pritchett did as well. But really, I'm not Chris Kapilovich. I'm not grading the offensive line very critically, especially considering the rules that we just outlined. So offensively, let's start with Jeremy Bernard because he transferred in from Washington, and Jeremy was not always healthy during the spring, so you didn't hear tons about him, but you heard, always helping the wide receivers get to know the new offense. What do I think? First off, I think there's a vacancy for a wide receiver alpha. Last year, obviously, you had Isaiah Bond and Jermaine Burton, and you can debate which one was the wide receiver one. I would maybe insinuate if you were debating between the two, then you didn't really have a first wide receiver, a wide receiver one. You had kind of two B wide receivers, two twos, both manning the ones, manning the outside for Alabama last year. But so what I think that means is I think there's a huge vacancy for Alabama in the wide receiver room that anybody can take advantage of, whether it's Jeremy Bernard, whether it's Cole Adams, whether it's Kobe Prentice, or, obviously Ryan Williams is not yet enrolled yet. It might be Ryan Williams. I think there's a vacancy in the wide receiver room. And Jeremy Bernard really took a small step forward. I want to remind you that it is small because a guy named Ajayi Hall does exist. Ajayi Hall tears up the spring game, 2020, 2021, and people lose their minds. Always going to be wide receiver one, and didn't do anything that fall and transferred out of the program shortly after. So yeah, we like to see Jeremy Bernard's performance. What do you have? 3 receptions, 122 yards. He gets the big chunk play down the field to Jalen Milroe. He gets the crosser with the run after the catch from Jalen Milroe as well, and then I think he finished with a catch from Ty Simpson as well. I like what you saw out of Jeremy. I think you saw a really physical receiver, a receiver who's going to play the ball in the air. You saw that with his first reception. He's kind of in the hole shot between the corner and the safety. Was Jalen Milroe late on the throw? Yes, he was. But Jeremy Bernard steps in front of the safety and makes a big play in contact, catching the ball, making a pretty big reception to kickstart the Alabama offensive drive. And then, a couple of series later, he's going on a crossing route, and Jalen drops it in there beautifully. It was a pass into the bucket from the pocket across the field, right over a defender into the place, right into Jeremy Bernard's hands. And Bernard turned what was probably a 25-yard play into the longest catch of the day for him, a 52-yard reception. So look, I liked what I saw out of Jeremy Bernard. He made me think, there is a little bit of potential for a wide receiver one right there. Really, with the wide receivers, I think you've got a lot of question marks, especially, you talk about Jalen Hale and his knee injury, a little bit of news coming out of A-Day. It sounded like Coach Kalen DeBoer told ESPN that Jalen Hale is going to be missing longer than the spring practice. Last we heard from Coach DeBoer was that he was out for spring practice and was going to be reevaluated. You saw, if you watched it on ESPN, Jalen Hale over on the sidelines, kind of in that. It wasn't really a wheelchair, but it wasn't really a hospital bed either. It was kind of a combination between the two. Obviously, suffering a significant knee injury in practice a couple of weeks ago, and Kalen DeBoer saying that he might miss the entire season. So you've got a lot of question marks in the wide receiver room, and you look through the receivers and you look at the rest of the stats. We're going to talk about Cole Adams in just a second, but Emmanuel Henderson, Kobe Prentice, and Caleb Odom were really the only other receivers who made some plays. I think that this is an area it's going to be very important for Jeremy Bernard to continue to do what he did on Saturday. Now, obviously, 130-something days until kickoff. I don't really want to overreact and, he's going to be all SEC. He's going to be first team this. This and that. And the other. And I also don't want to overreact to the other way. Alabama doesn't have any receivers. They clearly do. There's clearly some talent in the receiving room, and you know what's coming in the summer with Amari Jefferson, Rico Scott, and Ryan Williams. All the freshmen except for Bubba Hampton, Area and Bubba Hampton, are enrolling in the summer. So you're going to get some more help. But I was encouraged with what we saw out of Jeremy Bernard, especially transferring in from Washington. He looked like an immediate impact player on this offense. Now, as we are on this topic, I want to sidebar into really the exercise that was Saturday. It was, Coach DeBoer called it the 15th practice. It was, look, I'm a wrestling fan. It was scripted. It was completely, not completely, because you still have to move the football offensively by the offense, and you still have to make the correct reads by the quarterbacks, and you still have to pass the ball in the correct place with accuracy and on time, which you didn't always see, but you saw enough of it. Coach Kalen DeBoer talked about it being simplified from the defensive standpoint, and really gave a lot of credit to the defense for the way that they came back in the scrimmage. But it was all skewed, at least the first part. I mean, we're in there from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, so about 2 hours of practice. And the first half, it was like the offense was a hot knife through butter. And a lot of people took a lot of, oh my gosh, Alabama's defense is bad. Oh my gosh, Alabama's defensive line has problems. Oh, the secondary has issues. The linebackers can't cover. And I think a little bit of concern is valid there, but I think the majority of it was a setup. I think it was a setup for the quarterbacks to look good, for the offensive line to gain confidence, and for really look, if the offense wins the scrimmage, it's an offensive head coach. Everybody wants to see the new offense and see the new coach and see the new scheme and see all the new skill position players. Everybody went home happy. You had it. The Alabama offense took a 31-0 lead in Bryant Stadium over the defense, and you thought, this is a bunch of hooey. The defense can't get a stop. They can't get off the field. They're not tackling very well. They're not getting any turnovers, not getting any hardly any pressure, a little pressure, but not a whole lot of pressure. They're just getting walked all over. And then, I mean, you couldn't have booked it any better if you were writing it, if you were playing Madden, if you were just writing it out. The offense takes a huge lead, 31-0, and then consecutive stop after consecutive stop for the defense. And they close the gap. They finish the game on a 28-3 run. Oh, close your ears, Falcons fans. A 28-3 run to end the game at 34-28. They lost by 6 points. And it became, oh, wow, it's so close. So, offense and defense are right neck and neck. Offense wins the first half. Defense wins the second half. Everybody goes home happy. I mean, why shouldn't you? It's spring practice. Nobody lost. But really, I wonder and question and caution you taking a ton from this scrimmage, because I feel like it was a huge setup. I feel like it was a show. I feel like it was a show to say, hey, here's what. And look, there was a lot of cool things in the show. There was a lot of fun things to get excited about in the show. I mean, Jeremy Bernard's run after the catch with that over the shoulder throw from Jalen Milroe. You should be excited about that. I'm not going to try to take any joy away from you on that. But I just, you look through the passing game numbers, you look through the quarterbacks, and you had, Ty Simpson was 7 of 12, Jalen Milroe was 3 of 9. Look, the two of them combined for 202 yards. 202 yards, 10 of 21 passing. So you're not really, what's that, 50%? Yeah, 50%, 50% completion percentage for 200 yards. They got up 31 points. So they led 4 straight touchdown drives and a field goal before they even got slowed down and stopped. And then, surprisingly, almost coincidentally, the defense started reeling off stop after stop after stop after stop. And so, I don't know. I want to caution you from, the offense looks so good. The defense looks so bad. I think it was very much a setup to keep the Alabama fan base excited and engaged and energized about this program. Yeah, outside of the building, but inside of the building, I think it was a setup to keep everybody's confidence high. The quarterbacks can all look at their tape, and all 4 of them all made some positive throws, and all 4 of them had some throws or some plays that they wish they had back. I think what you showed out there was perfect, at least from a first-year standpoint, because everybody that got into the scrimmage can probably lean on, hey, I'm making progress. I've got a role on this team, and here was my growth over the spring, and I had a good enough spring game. But I just caution and wonder how much the value really was, because I think there was a little bit of a work there. I think it was a little bit of we want to make this offense look good. I mean, they went right down the field 4 straight times. Jalen Milroe's first drive was like 4 plays. It was ridiculous. Don't I have the drive charts? Yeah, okay, you're right there. Drive chart. 5 plays, 75 yards. 14 plays, 75 yards. 4 plays, 75 yards. And then you finish it off. The next 2 drives, you field goal and a touchdown. 17 plays, 66 yards. Yeah, the defense gives you a little bit of resistance there. And then drive number 5, 4 plays, 75 yards. And by that time, White is up 31-3, and you're just basically cranking. Defense gets a bunch of 3-and-outs, and you end the game at 34-28. So, yeah, did Jeremy Bernard look good? Yes, he did. And Cole Adams, my next guy, did Cole Adams look good offensively? Yes, he did. Made some impressive plays. But I just don't know how valuable and how much it's going to really mean for the fall, because I kind of think a lot of this was scripted to make several players kind of look good, so that they go into the summer riding high. Yeah, Cole Adams is my next guy, offensively speaking. 3 catches, 46 yards. And look, he didn't score a touchdown, but he did really do well in the slot for Alabama. I was most impressed with the crosser from right to left going into the south end zone in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And it was it Yeah, I think it was Simpson. It was either Simpson or Lonigan who's throwing it to him, and he comes open. Simpson or Lonigan's late to getting their eyes to him, but they finally do. They got their eyes to him. They snapped it over to Cole Adams, and Brayson Hubbard, the safety out of Mississippi, second-year safety out of Mississippi, just brought the wood, cracked Cole Adams pretty good on the catch. But Adams held on to make the reception. I don't really want to say Hunter Renfrow, but yeah, it looked a little bit like Hunter Renfrow, Julian Edelman, kind of that type of player. He looked, maybe Slade Bolden-esque, but better. We'll see. We're going to see how he develops. He was only a freshman last season out of Oklahoma, but last year we heard all kinds of talk about how fast and how quick and just what kind of an athlete he was. Even though he's small, he is small. We know that. But Cole Adams was very, very impressive in open space and in route running on Saturday. And yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunities in this wide receiver room. Now, you don't know, like we just said, how it's going to play out with when Ryan Williams and Rico Scott and Amari Jefferson do enroll. But for now, Cole Adams, I think, looked like a kind of guy who, you want to keep an eye on him in the fall to see what kind of role he can carve out on this football team. All right, let's hit 2 running backs that impressed me before we hit the quarterback that impressed me. Look, I know a lot of people wanted to talk and wanted to see Justice Haynes, and Justice Haynes is the name running back. He's the running back that everybody loves. I wonder if it's because of the Georgia connection and his daddy went to Georgia and everybody wants to see him succeed so they can rub it in their Georgia fan friend's face. But it was Jam Miller and it was Richard Young who impressed me the most on Saturday. Not to say that Justice Haynes isn't impressive. Justice Haynes on the day, where's my rushing right there? Justice Haynes, 3 carries, 10 yards, and a touchdown. Look, you hear that. 3 carries. And we're really looking to see a whole lot out of Justice Haynes. The coaching staff was like, all right, we're good. We know that Justice Haynes is talented. That's a bigger reason. That's one of the reasons why I think this was a farce. Why I think this, not a farce, but a setup. Look, and know what you got at Justice Haynes. We're not going to run him. 3 carries, 10 yards, and he did get into the end zone from a couple of yards away. I think it was a 6-yard carry. But Jam Miller, 86 yards, 83 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. He pops almost a 50-yard run. I think Jam Miller is one of the most maybe it's in my echo chamber, but he's a disrespected player. People have been talking, Justice Haynes, I can't wait for him to be running back 1, and about Richard Young because of his 5-star status the year prior, and I think that's valid. Look, Justice and Richard are good players, really good players, but Jam Miller has taken the reins in this backfield over the course of 2 years. I know that Jace McClellan and Roy Dell were basically your dogs last year, but Jam through the end of the year basically said, you have to play me. I'm playing so well. I am an explosive running back that you have to play me. I was impressed with Jam this past week because of his explosiveness and his decisiveness. One thing, and I guess this is a combination with Richard and with Justice Haynes, is there was a very obvious intent to get downhill in the running game with A-Day. Now, is it because you want to keep things simple and you just want to go straight ahead and, hey, we're not going to get too crazy into blocking the schemes and, we're just going to show down block, kick out, here we go. There's your hole off tackle and see how fast you can go. I think there's a little bit of that. We want to keep the blocking schemes as simple as possible, but I do wonder and think and believe that the downhill running style will be implemented this fall. A lot more than we've seen with Bill O'Brien. maybe a little more than you saw with Tommy Reese, but definitely a lot more than you saw with Bill O'Brien. And with that, I mean, you should just be excited about these tailbacks. You saw 4 tailbacks who really, I think Alabama's got confidence in all 4 of them. We just hit on Justice Haynes. Jam Miller looked really, really good on Saturday. Richard Young looked really, really good on Saturday. And the freshman, the true freshman, oh my gosh, I just lost his name. 20 out of Mississippi. Not Justice Hill. Was it Justice? Oh, gosh. Daniel Hill. Sorry. Daniel Hill. Daniel Hill's stats didn't make the stat or the official stat sheet. Actually, I have it right here. Is he on here? Daniel Hill, passing, rushing. No, I've got Haynes, Milroe, Law, and Miller. I don't have anything for Daniel Hill, but he did show a good bit of power on Saturday, and I think that you got 4 running backs that are going to eat on this coming fall. So, yeah, Richard Young was the other running back that impressed me. Only 7 carries, only 30 yards, but very, very powerful, rumbling, bumbling, breaking tackles. He also scored a touchdown. I think the running back room as a whole was very, very impressive. You had, 4 touchdowns out of the 3 backs. And that's going to be something like you talk about the downfield passing game. I think everybody's really excited about Alabama's vertical passing game. But if you combine the vertical passing game with a, really physical hammering running style, it's going to make things really, really hard for defenses. Do I come up and load the box and try to stop Justice and Jam and Richard Young? And I guess, your other runner, your other running back in Jalen Milroe, or do I basically try to play straight up and man and protect the deep ball? Jeremy Bernard's going to be involved in that. Kobe Prentice is going to be involved in that. You're going to have a lot of guys. Ryan Williams is going to be involved in that. You're going to have a lot of guys stretching the field vertically, and it's going to make for nightmares for defensive coordinators. And I think that's what I'm excited about. I know. I do think it was kind of a work and kind of a setup on Saturday, but we did see some kind of conceptual things that I think will carry into the fall. And one of the kind of bedrocks is a downhill running style. So you have Richard Young, you have Jam Miller showing out, you have Cole Adams and Jeremy Bernard showing out. Let's talk about quarterbacks real quick. I picked Ty Simpson as the quarterback that impressed me the most. Not to say that I wasn't impressed by Jalen Milroe, but I think Jalen Milroe a little bit falling into the Justice Haynes category. They didn't want to show anything with Jalen Milroe. He was only 3 of 9 for 100 yards, along with 52 yards. That pass to Jeremy Bernard with the run after the catch being the longest pass. Look, he had nine straight up handoffs to his running backs. I think that Jalen Milroe did just fine. I think the biggest goal was Jalen Milroe, don't get hurt. Jalen Milroe complete a few passes, get you some chemistry with Jeremy Bernard. You're going to be on the same page. You're going to use him this year, and don't throw a horrible, terrible interception. Good job. Mission accomplished. You did that, Jalen Milroe. Going back to the Friday show, I basically said there was no way, no chance for Jalen Milroe to lose his job, and I still stand by that. But Ty Simpson did look like the best quarterback on the day. Mostly, I think it's because they called the most traditional offense for Ty Simpson. I think he had the most opportunities out there out of anyone. Obviously, he threw 3 more passes. It's minuscule when it's only a couple more passes, but he did throw 3 more passes. He was 7 of 12 for 102 yards with a long of 34 yards, and I think that long did come to Jeremy as well. Hey, bud. Sorry, kitty cat getting excited today. But yeah, I thought that Ty Simpson operated the offense very well, very, very well. Does he look like still probably the best passer on the team? Yes, he does. He does. The ball comes out with a zip, and he looked like he was making confident reads and getting the ball out of his hands very, very quickly. But it's still Jalen Milroe's job. So all that to say is Ty, I think, performed pretty well. And what we know going into the summer is that, you've got maybe one of the best backup quarterbacks in the country in Ty Simpson. There was a little bit of speculation when Saban retired. Oh, is he going to transfer out? And we'll talk about that here in just in a little bit when we talk about the transfer portal. But for now, I know the staff brought in Austin Mack. Austin Mack didn't look that good. Now, Austin Mack was thrown with the walk-ons basically the entire time. Now he was going up against the 3-4s and walk-ons on the other side. But really, you got to contextualize a lot of this. Who are you playing with? Who are you playing against? And so I don't really have any. I don't really value anything that Austin Mack did or didn't do on Saturday. I think Ty Simpson showed that he is a very capable quarterback. And if he didn't have the black jersey on, I think Ty Simpson might have scored himself a rushing touchdown. They got down to the north end zone and called a quarterback read, and he correctly pulled the ball. It was the running back came across his face. He pulled the ball, and I think he probably would have walked in for a touchdown, but a defender came and tagged him. Black jersey, you can't hit the quarterback. Look, Ty's a good player. And I think it's going to be very, very, very important for Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff to keep Ty Simpson on this roster in the fall and going forward. I don't know how quickly Austin Mack's going to be ready. I do know that Jalen Milroe, this is basically going to be his last year here in Alabama. So, whether it's Austin Mack is ready or whether you want to hand the reins off right to Ty Simpson, and then, just worst case scenario, you don't ever hope for any sort of injury. Absolutely not for friend or foe. But seriously, if Jalen Milroe, you look at his playing style. If he gets out there and gets his bell rung or just has a bad day or just something, a hurdle gets in front of him and Alabama needs to go to its backup quarterback, you want to have confidence. And I think Ty Simpson showed you or gave you some of that confidence on Saturday that he can operate this offense and he can find the right receivers and matriculate the ball down the field. And if he leans on the running backs that we just kind of highlighted, I think that, if you do have to go to your second option, Ty Simpson has given you enough through what we saw last year and what we saw in the spring and what we saw on Saturday that he's got something cooking. He's a good little ball player, and I'm looking forward to seeing him continue to develop. All right, so let's talk about the format. Obviously, it was offense first defense. Offense first defense. The offense scores in its traditional fashions, but the defense scored what? 7 points for a takeaway, 3 points for a 3-and-out, 2 points for a missed field goal, and 2 points for a punt. They also got 6 points for a fourth down stop on the other side of the field from the -1 to the -49. They got 5 points for a fourth down stop from the from the middle third, the 26 to the 50, and then they got 4 points for from the red zone. Excuse me, I just got a text message. So look, I didn't like it. I didn't like the format because I felt like it was unfairly skewed to the offense. Unfairly skewed to the offense to, one, score points, but two, we talked about it on Friday a little bit. I thought that if you are awarding points for a takeaway, which, look, Alabama players, you should be trying to take the football away anyways. If you're awarding points away for a takeaway, you might have instances where players are going rogue. Now, you didn't award any points for, tackles for a loss. You didn't award any points for a sack. I feel like those are areas where you could have, given the defense a little bit of a way to come back on the offense. Now, Kalen DeBoer basically said, it was an even game. Basically, the defense didn't get a turnover, and that's the difference. It was a 6-point game. If the defense got one turnover, then the defense would have won. They would have won 35-34. Still, maybe it's my old curmudgeon nature. Maybe it's the fact that I don't like change. I didn't like it, Coach DeBoer. I wish we would have gone back to – I wish we would have kept it up with the Team Crimson versus Team White. Now, look. 12 months from now when we do 8A again, Kalen DeBoer, and you roll out this same scoring format or something similar to it, I think a lot of the people who complained over the weekend will be less likely to complain as they continue to get used to the Kalen DeBoer regime. But basically, because of the scoring system and the defense, I think it's obvious. I think it's obvious that it was rigged, that it was worked, that it was a setup. You go up 31-0, because you've driven the ball 5 times and kicked the field goal and scored 4 touchdowns. And then the defense rattles off 28 basically consecutive points because they get consecutive 3-and-out, 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 3-and-out. It just screams to me. Oh, Kalen DeBoer comes into the press conference afterwards and says, "Oh, well, if they'd have gotten a stop or if they'd have gotten a turnover, they would have won. It was just the difference of having a turnover or not." I think it's very clearly a setup to make both sides end up looking good. Now, Kalen DeBoer did say one thing that was interesting to me after the game, basically saying, "Oh, we haven't had a turnover in any of the live scrimmages. They just 8A was the third scrimmage, and that's interesting to me. One, it's encouraging that all the quarterbacks are taking care of the football. Is it encouraging from an offensive standpoint? They're not turning the ball over, or is it discouraging from a defensive standpoint that they're not getting those turnovers in live action? I think it kind of half one way, 6 one way, half a dozen the other. And then you got to think about who's playing defensive back for Alabama right now. Lots and lots and lots of inexperience back there, maybe making life a little bit easier on the 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks who are playing in practice and playing in these live action scrimmages. So yeah, it was like, did I not enjoy it any more or less because of the scoring format? I don't know. One, I don't always love spring practice anyways, but I did think it made it more of a hokey situation. I did think it made it a little bit more of a joke. Spring game, it's going to be a joke anyways, but you throw in an odd scoring format. I don't know if that serves everybody very well. One thing, you had a good turnout. 72,000 people showed up. 72,000 people showed up. If you showed up, you can let me know what you thought of the day in the comments at Joe Gaither 6 on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Let me know what you thought of the scoring format or of any of the offensive standouts that I already highlighted. But you had a real good turnout. Look, the last couple of years with Saban, 47,000, 31,000, 58,000. Yeah, the 31,000 was in 2022, and it was a nasty day. It was raining. But 72,000 I think is a good number. No, it's not the 97,000 that showed up in 2007, but the fever pitch, the hunger, not necessarily the same. The fever pitch and the hunger in 2007, you'd gone through the mics, you just fired Mike Shula, like you were in the doldrums, you were hungry, starving as Alabama fans. I don't know that Alabama fans are they're definitely not starving. And maybe they're hungry out of just being a little bit extreme. But look, you won a national championship in 2020. You played for one in 2021. The circumstances are much, much different in the program here in 2024 than they were in 2007 when Coach Saban took over, then when Kalen DeBoer took over. I think the excitement is still there. And I think the 72,000 does show that the Alabama fan base is pumped for the new regime. You had the lower bowl pretty much completely full. And I was happy with that. Was I maybe a sucker and I thought that you'd get the whole building full? Yeah, I was. But it was a good crowd in Tuscaloosa that day. I went over to the Walk of Champions, and you can see that on BamaCentral's YouTube channel. And there was a good crowd of people to see Coach Saban, to see Dallas Turner, to see Malachi Moore and Jalen Milroe put their hands into the concrete. Look, I was pleased or impressed enough with the turnout by the Alabama faithful. I mean, obviously you have Diamond Sports going on at the same time. You had Alabama taking on Arkansas, number one Arkansas, not anymore number one Arkansas, as Alabama broke their losing streak. They had lost 5 in a row before winning on Saturday, and then they won again on Sunday. So beat the Arkansas Razorbacks. But the turnout in Tuscaloosa and around Bryant-Denny Stadium, I thought was good. If you can let me know what you thought of the crowd and basically what you thought of the day here in town at Joe Gaither 6, if you'd like to. Look, I think a lot of people aren't as excited as they were in 2007. Life's a whole lot different. Life is a whole lot different, 17, 18 years later, and people are a whole lot busier, I think. And so priorities are a bit different, especially as the football program has been riding high for 17 seasons. I don't think it means that, because they didn't max it out, that they're not as excited about Kalen DeBoer. But let's go on to I got 2 more notes here. No one in the transfer portal yet, and offensive needs. Before we do that, though, look, Coach Saban was there. Coach Saban was at the captain ceremony. Coach Saban was at the game, and Coach Saban spoke to the team. Kalen DeBoer told everybody that Coach Saban spoke to the team. Do you have any issue with Coach Saban being there? I had a handful of people. Oh, Joe, it's weird. He needs to give Kalen DeBoer space. He's hovering over the program. Oh, he hadn't talked to the team as, he hadn't presented to the team since January, since he retired. Coach Saban's been out of Tuscaloosa. He's been all over the golf circuit. He was at Augusta. He was at the Waste Management Open. He's been all over. He's been all over the place playing golf, enjoying retirement. It's A-Day where he's celebrating Dallas Turner, Jalen Milroe, and Malachi Moore, three of his captains, his last three captains. Of course, he's going to show up, in my opinion. And then, it wasn't like he was out there calling plays or hanging out right next to Kalen DeBoer. He was up there in the box sitting with Miss Terry. He said, I'm going to watch it with my head coach, Terry Saban. I'll watch the game for the first time with Miss Terry. I'm kind of nervous to watch it with her. So, look, Coach Saban's going to be around the program. I think what you saw this weekend was a little bit of a microcosm of what he will do in the fall. Obviously, he's going to be working with ESPN's College Game Day. I think he's going to be around a little. Not much, but a little, enough to shake hands with some recruits. He shook hands with Michael Carroll over at the captain's ceremony at Denny Chimes. Michael Carroll, interior offensive lineman from Pennsylvania, I believe. Dude was huge. Came in for a visit this weekend to take in A-Day. So Coach Saban's going to be around as an ambassador for the program. I don't have any impression. I don't have any feel that Kalen DeBoer doesn't like his presence. I don't have any feel that DeBoer is, I wish you'd go away. I wish you'd go down to Florida and just retire. Look, you got an old coach who's made his life and basically his whole I won national championship at LSU, but he basically cemented himself as the greatest coach in college football right here in Tuscaloosa. He's not going to just go away. So I enjoyed seeing Coach Saban. Very very funny. I did laugh while he was at the captain ceremony. I'm like you guys now. I'm a fan just like you, here to cheer on the Tide. And so Coach Saban transitioning into a new life and a new role. Let's talk about the transfer portal. Tomorrow it opens up officially. It opens up officially for football. It's been open officially for basketball for a hot minute. For football, it stays open till the end of the month. Alabama doesn't have anybody in the transfer portal yet. Nobody's been announced to be planning on going into the transfer portal, but I would anticipate that to change any minute now. Look, on Sunday mornings, right after church, Matt Zenitz of 24/7 Sports went out with Tony Mitchell, Alabama safety from Thompson, going into the transfer portal. He quickly deleted that tweet, and Tony Mitchell replied, one emoji, cap, basically calling the report a lie. Look, I don't know who's going to go in the transfer portal. I'm not going to sit here and guess that Billy or Steven or Bobby or anybody's going to go in the portal because I don't want to put that juju on them. And I don't want to say, I don't want to have anybody, the three people that listen to this show say, oh, Joe said Billy Five Star's going into the portal. I don't want to put anything out there like that because I just don't know. But I did run the numbers. Tony Mitchell's not in the transfer portal yet. That report has so far not come to fruition. We'll see what happens with the Thompson safety. I would maybe guess or maybe hope that Tony Mitchell wants to stay at Alabama, especially considering the various ways that Alabama went out on a limb for him last spring. We'll just say that. Obviously, if you're unfamiliar, Tony Mitchell got himself arrested while he was still in high school at spring break. Marijuana and a gun that he overcame. He took some steps and got himself back into good standing with the state and with the university. But yeah, Alabama stuck their neck out a little bit for Tony Mitchell. We'll see what happens with him. I would like to see him continue to develop here at the capstone because I think he's a player with a lot of talent. But I went there and counted it. I have 76 scholarship players according to RollTide.com. Now, that's based on my eye, so that's give or take one or two. Obviously, I don't know if there are some players that their scholarship is a little bit, is he on scholarship? Is he not? But I counted 76. So what's that put for you, Alabama? You've got 8 guys enrolling in the summer. Ryan Williams, Amari Jefferson, Rico Scott. You've got Noah Carter. You got QB Reese. You got Kevin Riley. 8 guys enrolling in the summer, plus 1 player from the transfer portal already in Caden Proctor. So you take those numbers, 76 guys, 8 guys enrolling in the summer, and 1 transfer portalee, you're at 85 right there. Boom, you are at 85. Alabama football, you're at the limit. So if you want to go shopping in the transfer portal, and you do, Kalen DeVore, he is going to go shopping in the transfer portal. He's going to go shopping for an offensive lineman, and he's going to go shopping for a defensive back. But in order to do that, some players are going to have to go themselves. So you're at 85 scholarships. In the next couple of days, you're going to see Billy 5-star and Steven 5-star, and you're highly rated. A lot of guys, if they're coming to Alabama, they're a highly rated player. You're going to see guys with potential going into the transfer portal. Don't freak out. Do not freak out. It's okay. Transfer portal gives just as much as it takes. So it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. But right now, Alabama holding firm right there on the 85 number. If my calculation is correct, and I'm pretty confident in it, but I do leave a little bit of gray area for one spot or two about scholarship limits. It's going to be 1 in, 1 out from here over the next couple of days, over the next 15 days. We'll see who Alabama can get. Let's talk about it then. Offensive needs. We're going to talk. This day is all about offense. We'll talk about defense tomorrow. Offensive needs. You're going to have to get some more offensive line depth. You're looking through the offensive line, and you've got guys. Where's my right there? Perfect. Let's see. Let's talk about scholarship offensive linemen. That's a good way. We had 76. So let's see. Scholarship offensive lineman. There we go. Here we go. From the bottom, from 50, Tim Smith is not on offense. Tyler Booker, 52, is 1. Miles McVay is 2. Rock Montgomery, 3. Elijah Pritchett is 4. James Brockermeyer, 5. You keep going on down. Naquil Bertrand is 6. Joe Inata is 7. William Sanders is 8. Brailsford is 9, but you don't know if he's going to be back with the team or not. Alasa Lennon is 10. Casey Poe is 11. Wilkin Thornby 12. Jaden Roberts 13. Scholarship offensive lineman. So with that, you want 15. You definitely want 15. You got Wilkin. You've got Caden Proctor coming in as 14. You don't know if you're going to have Brailsford or not. So you're going to be out there shopping for an offensive lineman. I was happy with what you saw out of the offensive line, at least running the football on Saturday. Doesn't mean they're there. Doesn't mean they're perfect. No. And look, one injury. Take James Brockermeyer for a moment. Did James play well on Saturday? Yeah, I think he did play well on Saturday. Was he unstoppable? No, but he wasn't a liability. He was fine. It was good. The snaps were mostly there on point. And there wasn't a ton of penetration right at the middle. Good job, James. You did good, James Brockermeyer, starting center so far for Alabama. But you go to that number 2 spot. What happens if Parker Brailsford is not going to get back assimilated with his team? Then you're moving to your second center who, look, I love you, Joe Ionata. Appreciate your time on the show. But Joe Ionata's never played center. He never played center in high school. It was guard and tackle, and beating up guys at Calvary Christian and doing a good job of it. Same thing with William Sanders. William Sanders, mostly guard, a little bit of tackle at Brookwood. You're throwing these younger guys who have never snapped before and saying, oh, go be the second string center. And while, look, do I have confidence in the guys? Yeah. Those guys seem like bright fellas, working hard, giving their all to a position. They would give their all to be Alabama's second team center. But do you really want to do that? Do you really? Look, Joe snaps on Saturday weren't all perfect, and he'd tell you that. That's okay. He's growing and learning at the position. But do you really want to live that way for another year next year? No, you don't want to do that. So you want to get Parker Brailsford back comfortable here in Tuscaloosa and feeling good about being a part of the program. You do. That would be the most ideal. But number 2, you got to go find a center or an interior offensive lineman who can snap the football, who has had experience snapping the football. You're already gotten Caden Proctor. He's going to give you some help at the tackle position. You're probably going to go back into the portal for a tackle. The depth on the offensive line is a huge problem, and I think that's going to be one of the areas that Alabama addresses in the transfer portal. Their last two offensive needs are not about going out and getting anybody. They're about keeping what you have. I think that Ty Simpson showed enough for himself on Saturday that he's going to get tampered with. Look, he's probably been tampered with already, but he's going to get tampered with. Hey, man, we need a quarterback. Hey, you can be our number 2 quarterback, or you can come here and be in a quarterback competition and maybe prove yourself. Or there's probably even going to be programs maybe offering him a pathway to their quarterback 1 job. I think my two biggest needs and notes outside of getting offensive line depth is retaining the quarterback talent and retaining the running back talent. Look, if Ty Simpson walks, it just is what it is, and that's the way that college football works these days. And look, he's got limited opportunities to make a name for himself. If Ty Simpson goes to the portal, you're leaning on Lonergan and Austin Mack. And while Lonergan looks like he could be a player as well, and the coaching staff loves Austin Mack, ask yourself, who would you rather have as Alabama's backup quarterback? Dylan Lonergan, Austin Mack, or Ty Simpson? It's a no-brainer decision. So you got to retain your quarterback talent for the next 15 days. And then the running back talent. We talked about the loaded running backs earlier in the program. Justice Haynes, Richard Young, Jam Miller, and Daniel Hill. And you've got Kevin Riley enrolling in the summer. Now, Kevin Riley could get on the Richard Young path, but potentially, probably, Richard Young enrolled in the summer last year and didn't really get any sort of playing time. And now this year looks like he might be right there in the rotation. I'm just from a selfish standpoint. You look at Jam, you look at Justice, and you look at Richard, and you say, hey, man, there's not enough football to go around for all three of us. I think all 3 guys could be starters in college football. And so with the portal opening up, I think it would be very, very important for Alabama to maintain its depth in the running back room. And so there we go. That's going to do it for us today. That's going to kind of wrap us up. We talked a lot about A-Day. I hit on 5 offensive players that stood out to me on Saturday. Who stood out to you? We had Jeremy Bernard, Jam Miller, Richard Young, Cole Adams, and Ty Simpson as my 5 skill position standouts. You can let me know who stood out to you in the comments at Joe Gaither 6 on any social media machine. Or if you want to reply to this podcast on Apple Podcast or Amazon, there's places for you to do that as well below in the comments section. We talked about the format a little bit and how I kind of thought the game was a show, a bit of a work on Saturday. And you can let me know if you disagree with that. Please feel free to agree or disagree. And then we also talked about Alabama's transfer portal prospects for offense. One thing I'm going to leave you with, because it's now getting out, Sam Walters is the newest Alabama basketball player to go into the portal. Make sure to put to transfer since he hasn't for sure entered yet. So Sam Walters becomes the next Alabama basketball player to go into the transfer portal. And I'm not really surprised by this, because what did surprise me in Phoenix, we're wrapping up interviews inside the locker room, and Sam Walters takes his damn jersey off and leaves it in the middle of the floor. Now, was it like thrown? No, it was not thrown. It was neatly, nicely placed, but it was right in the middle of the floor. And I thought, that's weird. That's very weird. And I picked it up and handed it to a manager and tried to get it to the right place. But I thought, man, why would anybody leave their jersey right in the middle of the floor right at the end of the year? I'm not a locker room expert, but there's usually a basket or a trainer who comes around looking for uniforms to try to collect them so they all get put in the right place. So Sam Walters goes in the transfer portal from Alabama basketball's perspective. We haven't hit on Chris Youngblood committing today. We're not going to do that because we're almost out of time. But Alabama gets a commitment out of the transfer portal from Chris Youngblood. So Nate Oates is working there. It's portal combat season. Sam Walters goes in it from the Alabama's perspective, but Alabama gets Chris Youngblood over the weekend, and Nate Oates will continue to fill out this roster. That's going to do it for our show today. We appreciate everybody who's watched us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Share the program with a friend or listen, and then we appreciate everybody who's listened to us as well on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. We try to do it every weekday. We do it as often as we can. We appreciate everybody who's followed us, who's listened to us, and who's shared it with a friend. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Alabama sports right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.